everybody, and thank you for joining us back here at American Aries channel. We have a special interview for you guys today as we sit here with Josh Bruni, the Chief Revenue Officer of the company. We're going to dive into his past, how he got involved, and what his role looks like. But first off, Josh, how are you doing on this Friday afternoon?
Doing well, doing very good. Thanks for having me.
Good. Glad to hear it. So curious, tell me about your past. You have a lot of years of experience, successful growth marketing and e-commerce and so on. Tell me what got you into it in the first place and like the spark, so to speak, what attracted you?
Yeah, specifically to American Aries is, I was familiar with the problem that they were solving and which is EMF protection in a simple way to describe it. And I think what piqued my interest was, and kind of backing up a little bit, I was originally approached by the chairman of our board and for a different opportunity. And one that's definitely more mainstream, it was a consumer product. And I actually said, no, that's not really of interest to me. I kind of point in my career where I wanted to really make a difference, work on kind of a big problem and be able to impact lives in a meaningful way. And another consumer product for me just wasn't it. And so then they called me back probably 3 days later and said, hey, we want to chat with you about this product. And again, I had been familiar with the problem. And so I'm like, okay, I'm interested, only because I was a little surprised that there was a company that was publicly traded that was in this market, because it has been plagued with a lot of bad players. And so it intrigued me. And so right away, I dug into the science, I dug into the history, and was just really, really, again, more curious, really super curious. Got on the phone with Dimitri and just fell in love with Dimitri, fell in love with the product, where it had come from, the story, all those little elements that you want to be excited about when you're joining a team. And it 20 years experience of growing brands and businesses, that's really what I was looking for, was solving something big and meaningful, something that was going to be challenging, which I knew it would be, but that could have real meaningful impact. So they checked all those boxes. And when you really dig into the science and you understand the product and the fact that it actually works, whereas again, in the category, it's super easy to get into this market with a product that doesn't work, right? There's no science, there's nothing there and nothing validated. And so that was just a really unique opportunity, because this is a space that I think is only going to expand and grow, as far as like more regulation coming, more pressure on companies to be better. It's all happening right now. It's evolving. So I feel like this is the right product, the right team, and global. That was the other big thing. It was just a massive audience.
Yeah, fair enough. You touch on a lot of really good points there. When you're trying to find where you belong in any industry, you found people who your ideals and visions kind of align with, as you had said. But then most importantly, the chemistry with the other people like Dimitri, so on, works, right? And that's how you guys are going to come together and be greater than the sum of your parts, so to speak. So I guess now that you're in this role as Chief Revenue Officer, tell us how that's going, and then like what you handle on the day-to-day.
Yeah, good question. And my history, I've spent a lot of time in fashion and apparel for, a lot of brands that most people would recognize, a lot of retailers, as well as, labels that are selling to retailers. So kind of been on all over that arena of fashion apparel. And then also recently done a lot more consumer packaged goods, food and beverage, better for you category, and kind of moving towards like, how do you make a difference? I have this experience. And I feel like I have a strong understanding of how to grow brands and businesses and really share a story and a message. How can I apply that in a meaningful way? And so that's really, in a nutshell, what I do day to day, is like, how do we take this story, this product, find the right people that are willing to hear the message or want to hear the message or need to hear the message, and then craft the proper message for them to hear and then take action. And that's really what I do today. That's a very, high level way to look at it. And, as you drill down, there's a very scientific approach to that. It's very data driven. You kind of start with the hypothesis of who your customer might be, what they look like, how they interact, what their behavior's like, and then try to, again, craft that message, choose the channels, understand their path to purchase, and then make sure you're showing up at the right time, right place with the right message. And that's what we do in a very, very like precision way, and a very methodical, and again, very iterative and data driven.
Interesting. When it comes to American Aries versus some of the past industries you've worked in, is there any key differences in how you have to perform your duties, or any specific obstacles that you have to overcome?
Oh, absolutely. I would say the biggest one is the way that I would approach it is, I always think about if I was to go, when I tell my friends or people that are, that I speak to kind of casually, how do I start that conversation when I tell them about American Aries? What does that conversation flow like? And there's usually two main parts to that. The first part is, do you understand the problem that we're solving? Do you understand that electromagnetic fields are potentially harmful? And do you accept that? And then if you do, we move to part two, which is, well, we have a solution, and let me tell you about the solution, and then it actually works. If they don't understand number one, though, it's very difficult to move to number two.
Sure.
And in other categories that I've worked, or spent a lot of time in, you don't really spend a lot of time on number one. Like if I'm in fashion apparel, I don't have to tell you that denim, like a expensive pair of denim is good. Like you understand that I need to wear pants, right?
I have to wear them, unfortunately, as well.
Yeah, you have to.
Natural
So we all have to wear pants, and then, like footwear, for example, is another one. I got to work with a really great brand that did have a unique selling proposition for running shoes. But we still didn't have to tell, runners that they needed to wear shoes. As a matter of fact, in that situation, there was a huge movement toward running barefoot and the benefits of running barefoot. So this shoe was like the perfect marriage of running barefoot with a shoe on. So it actually helped us. So in this instance, what's different in the problem that we have to solve is we have to be a bit of a trailblazer in the fact that there's a large group of people that already have high intent that want and are looking for a product like this actively. That already exists. I don't know how big that audience is because they're not constantly raising their hand and talking about it. And the ones that are probably are pretty small of a group. Again, this is global too. When you look at what's happening in other countries and the regulations, there are noisier groups of people than we probably experience in North America. But that I don't know how big that is. But then there's, let's say, moving towards the middle a little bit more, how many people are willing to hear the message or open to hearing a message or are curious about what's actually happening or maybe have no idea, but are of the mind that, hey, I'm willing to hear this message. That's a little bit challenging to find those people and to get their attention, get them to react, get them to take action. That's a different problem. But when you figure that out, it's a massive group of people. So that's just different. Like to actually have to be a leader in kind of the trailblazer in explaining the problem and getting people to pay attention to it.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like for American Aries, it's kind of one more stage to the pipeline when it comes to indoctrination or adding someone to the pipeline, so to speak. Is like you have to get them to understand this first, which is kind of introducing sometimes an entirely new concept to them. So that's an interesting thing that you have to overcome. So then how do you feel about this year for American Aries? How are things going from your perspective?
I couldn't be happier, to be honest. It's been I don't know how many months. It hasn't been quite a year yet that I've been on board, but it'll be approaching that in the summertime. And when I first got in the seat and kind of surveyed what's going on and started to build a plan, the first part of that is just, like I said, collecting everything you can possibly collect and understand where we are today, where the opportunities, what worked, what didn't work, where have you been, and just collecting all that. That takes some time. Your first 100 days are really kind of compiling, organizing, doing a few little tests, but you're not really making massive leaps. And then, your next 100, now you've formulated some hypotheses and now you're testing, you're in market, you're doing some things that are yours now, your fingerprints are all over it. And now we're, beyond that. That would have put me into Q4. In Q4, we did outstanding. And then rolling into Q1, you're expecting to see, a drop off because you have this explosion of holiday sales and you expect a drop off. Well, we haven't had that drop off. We've continued to accelerate our growth. And so that's what I'm really excited about. And I would say one of the big things that I was really passionate about was, we're a young company, we're a small company, and I wanted to work with a team of experts, and that would complement kind of where I am. But yeah, I didn't want to go out and start to collect my own team necessarily just yet, because there was more to test. So we partnered up with VaynerMedia and VaynerCommerce, which was a really big step there. It's a relationship that I've worked with them in the past, and their thesis really aligns with mine, which is that test and iterate model, but like really content driven, really story driven, and really like specific to individual unique users, really at a one-to-one level, and really understanding who are all the different personalities that would buy this product. What unique journey do they have? What unique problem are they solving that's different? Than they're all different. So like if you're somebody that's really, I just want to sleep better, or I want to think better, or I'm an athlete, I want to perform slightly better, or I'm a gamer and I spend hours just in front of all this technology for extended periods of time, and I'm worried about that. Like all these people have a different problem that they're actually solving, even though our product is essentially solving the same problem. They're all coming at it from a different angle. And so Vayner really put us in a position to move quickly, understand culture, and be able to kind of penetrate each of those different markets in a unique way. So that was a really important step for me, was to bring them on board really early and start to work with them very closely at executing my vision, having them, provide input as well as we shape the future. So that's worked extremely well. So as we look forward into the rest of this year, we're all just super excited about the growth that we're having right now, and the fact that what we're doing is working and it's repeatable. We have a very clear path to profitability right now based upon a very scientific approach that's repeatable.
Yeah, it really sounds like the momentum with American Aries has been picking up really, really quickly lately, which is wonderful. And when I had talked to Dimitri, and the first time he had mentioned VaynerMedia to me too, I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. As you said, like, well, first off, Gary V, amazing marketer, huge
Right.
on producing content, finding your
Right.
audience, nurturing your audience, and so on and so forth. So that plays perfectly. That's definitely VaynerMedia is definitely a company you want in your corner, right? So.
Yeah.
Josh, I think you did a great job walking us through your role, giving us a good overview. But if anyone else has any other questions, happily, guys, please send them over, comment below, and we'll dive into them. But for now, Josh, do you have any closing words? Anything you want to add before we leave today?
No, I think what I get excited about, I mentioned this before, is, Aries really it is really a global opportunity. And, we have this year launched distribution centers in Australia, and just recently launched in Europe. And the sales and the velocity that we're experiencing in those markets just by being there and being present is just super exciting. So when I look at the total market opportunity and the fact that we're able to get the product in an efficient way to all these different markets, it's just super exciting. And it's sometimes it's overwhelming because you can't move fast enough. And I'm excited that we've been able to. You mentioned Gary. One thing that Gary's does exceptionally well is, you might have bumped into Gary because we wrote a book about social media back in early 2000s, or you might recently have bumped into him because he's talking about NFTs and metaverse and cryptocurrency, or you might have bumped into him because he's talking about hustle culture or whatever it is, right? Yeah. He's speaking to so many different audiences, and that actually matched very well with what we're doing. As I explained before, all these different users, all these different kind of moments in culture or cracks in culture where we can deliver that message. And when you open that globally, it's a massive canvas for us to go do work. So I'm super excited about that.
Wonderful, Josh. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you everybody for watching. Stay tuned for another video coming soon. And Josh, have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.